Okay guys, so the next track we're going to talk about is the first of our descending pathways we're going to learn. These are the corticospinals, which are really the main tracks for movement within the body. So as always, we'll review the cross-section, take a look at some important structures. Since the descending will start in the cortex, of course we'll remember our primary motor cortex and our internal capsule. And then as we move down, you'll notice this is where the cerebral peduncles, which you've seen grossly, really come into play. So here's the cerebral peduncles in our midbrain, kind of diencephalon area, and then here's them again within their midbrain. The corticospinals travel within them. As we keep descending, those disappear, but you'll still see our corticospinals here in the most anterior portion of the spinal cord. They will actually become the medullary pyramids or medullary pyramids, which you can see here has a decussation, which is important. Finally, within the spinal cord, then we just need to remember a couple of key structures. So that would be our lateral corticospinals and our anterior ventral corticospinals. And then also, we shouldn't forget about our anterior white commissure and our motor horns, as those both play a role. Okay, so let's start with these. So first off, we'll start with the lateral corticospinal tract. This is the primary one. About 80 to 90% of the fibers for movement go through these. And this is for fine movement within limbs. So really anything that you can do with your hands, legs, feet and arms is all going to be through here. So we'll do one. We'll just say that we're doing one for the legs. So we'll start in the motor homunculus region for the legs. This is our primary motor cortex again. This fiber is going to descend through our internal capsule, through our cerebral peduncles, and then again, as I said, through this kind of corticospinal region within the front of the pons till it enters our medullary pyramids within the medulla. At this point, the lateral corticospinals are going to decussate in our pyramidal decussation, which is actually visibly grossly, which is pretty cool. And then it will descend further. It will enter into the lateral corticospinal tract. And since it's going to legs, we'll go to the lower spinal cord. It goes to our lateral corticospinal tract, at which point it will then come into the ventral gray horn and it'll synapse. So that's going to be our first synapse. Our second nerve is in our ventral motor horn. At this point then it will leave ipsilateral to the motor horn, but contralateral from its source to innervate a muscle. If we compare that to the ventral corticospinals, which are used more for gross movement of the body, specifically like your trunk and your neck, we'll start also, we'll just say this is trunk, so it's coming up here in our motor cortex. It'll also go through our internal capsule, through our cerebral peduncles, through our pons, and it'll enter our medullary pyramids. At this point though, it will not decussate, and they will travel down, and they will stay very midline in this area, which is the ventral corticospinal tract. Once it reaches the level it's going to reach, so let's say this is neck and it's mid-cervicals, it's going to leave from our, so it does not synapse here, but it will leave from the ventral corticospinal tract and will bifurcate. Some will travel contralaterally through the anterior white commissure, and some will stay ipsilateral. It will go to bilateral ventral motor horns, and then we'll innervate muscles within that area. So again, the second cell body is located within the ventral motor horn. So if we just look at this real quick to summarize again, lateral corticospinals for movement in limbs is descending all the way through our internal capsule, our peduncles, and our medullary pyramids. It will decussate to then innervate contralateral limbs, with the second cell body being within the ventral motor horn, whereas the ventral corticospinals leave the cortex, go through the same path, but do not decussate within the medullary pyramids. They will travel to this anterior or ventral corticospinal tract, and then once they're at the specific level they're going to leave, they will bifurcate. Some will travel through the anterior white commissure, and then they will leave through bilateral ventral motor horns to innervate muscles of the trunk. That's corticospinals.